In the Kenyan statutes concerning appealing for an election, it is not a must that the candidate himself or herself does the appeal. The Kenyan statutes allows for a third party to appeal. This has been in the Kenyan law for quite a long time. But in the initial stages, it used to be the candidates themselves. But nowadays, you find that a third party, usually more than even the candidate, do go to court to nullify an election. Do go to an election court calling for the nullification of that election. I will tell you how this came to be. But first I'll have to tell you that it becomes divisionary, it becomes a bit less risky if you as the losing candidate is not the person who appeals. When you want to appeal as a third party, you have to be registered in that election. Now, the definition of that election changed with the 2010 Constitution. Before the 2010 Constitution, it meant that for you to be registered in that election meant that, for example, Nakuru. If you are registered in Nakuru Municipal Council and there is an election you want to appeal as a third party in Nakuru County Council, that is outside Nakuru town, you are not qualified. But with the 2010 Constitution, the whole register was unified, such that if you are registered, say, in Webuye, and you are not happy with elections in Wajir, so long as you appear in the IEBC register, you can do it. That is the change that the election, that is the Constitution of 2010 changed. Why did the candidates leave, or when did the candidates leave the duties of a third party? Although it was there for forever, because as long as I can remember, it was always there. But it is the candidates themselves who used to go to election court to call for nullification of either a councillor's seat or an MP seat. It happened like this. In Alego Usonga, there was the MP for Alego Usonga was called Matthews Ogutu. Matthews Ogutu was the Minister for Wildlife. Archbishop Stephen Ondiek of the Legion Maria contested against Matthews Ogutu in 1979. Matthews Ogutu won the election by a margin of 23, maybe 25, 23 or 25, I'm not sure. He won an election with 25 votes. Stephen Ondieki was not happy about it. Was not happy about the winning, and he went to an election court. the election of 1979. When he went there, among the evidence he carried were, he confiscated some marked ballot papers somewhere and whatever. And when he confiscated them, he took them to the election court. Both Matthews Ogutu and Archbishop Stephen Ondiek were both found to have committed an election offense. The points that Archbishop Stephen Ondiek took to court were proven. But then the same court found Stephen Ondiek to have committed an election offense by unauthorized use of ballot papers. So they were both convicted, and the laws then said that if you are convicted of an election offense, you will not contest for any civic or parliamentary seat for a period of 5 years. Now, after the election was over, taking the case to election court, it took something like, could we say months? So those are, let's say, 6 months after the election. If you are banned from contesting for 5 years, when the parliament was 6 months old, I'm only giving an example of 6 months old, because you'll have eaten into that parliament. So 5 years from the day when the conviction is done, it means that the next general election you are not going to contest, and instead of 5, it will be practically 6 to 9 or 10. Because after the next election are held and you'll not participate, it means that unless there is a by-election, then you are banned for 10 years. The paper-wise, it used to say 5 years, but practically it would be up to 9 years. So, Stephen Ondiek, noticing that he had been barred, he took his young brother-in-law, the brother to one of Mrs. Archbishop Ondiek had 2 wives. Legio Maria allows polygamy. Archbishop Ondiek had 2 wives. One was a sister to James Orengo. And that is how James Orengo now became a politician up to date. When the 2010 constitution came up, they changed and said that instead of being confined to the local authority, any Kenyan can appeal for any case to the Court of Appeal. Now, in the process of anything being seen wrong, the candidate does not expose himself to being banned from being that. That is the genesis of why we have elections where a third party. So from that time on, that is when now people used that lacuna, the legal lacuna, to now be sponsoring other people to go and give the case for them. You will notice that in 2017, NASA had a two-front approach. On one front, they had agreed with the human rights organization to go to court, and on the other, they were there just as a backup. So when the human rights people wanted to go, you can remember they had an office in Kileleshwa. The police surrounded the place and stopped them. That is when kumbe these guys were at Raila's place in Karen, and they sneaked from Karen to Nyayo Stadium, Losaka Road, up to City Stadium, and made their own appeal. I think with that, Kenyans now know the background of how a third party can appeal to a case on seemingly as an independent person, but in reality siding with the losing team. Thank you.